Hi guys, welcome to Easy Maths Lessons, and today I'm going to show you how to round decimals. So in other words, how to round to the nearest one decimal place, two decimal places or three decimal places. Let's get started. So the first one says round to the nearest tenth. Now, what does nearest tenth really mean? I'm just going to go back here and I'm going to show you something. So the nearest tenth, if I've got my hundredths and I've got my tens and I've got my units, decimal point, this is my nearest tenth. It's called a tenth because it's literally 1/10. My next decimal place would be 1/100th. And my last decimal, well, not my last decimal place, but the third one in, will be a 1,000th. And there you have it. So if you are asked to round to the nearest tenth, that means the first decimal place. If you are asked to round to the nearest 100th, then that's the second decimal place. And if you're asked to round to the nearest 1,000th, then that is the third decimal place. Okay, now this one is asking us to round to the nearest tenth. That means to one decimal place. Now I'm going to look at these two numbers. I'm going to ignore the decimal point for a minute. And it is asking me basically to, well, put it round between 30 and 40. Now if I look at 34, then 34 rounds to 30. So I can safely say that that's going to be 30, right? But because it's a decimal, it looks a little bit different. So I've got on my decimal line 12.3, or please don't say 12.30 because there's no 30, 12.3, and I've got it all the way down to 12.4. Now 12.34, not 12.34, 12.34 is right here, and I can see that it is closer to 12.3 than it is to 12.4, and therefore approximately equal to, squiggly equal means approximately equal to 12.3. I don't need the zero, I just put it there for your benefit. Alright, for the next one. The next question also want you to round to the nearest tenth, and it is this 4 here. Again, I can just look at these two and say, well, 46 is closer to 50 than it is to 40, and therefore 7.4. On a number line, it will look like this. So I will have my 78.4 and I'll have my 78.5. Now 78.46 is about here, and it's closer to 7.5 than it is to 7.4, and therefore approximately equal to 78.5. I don't put the zero because I only want to the nearest tenth, which means I want just one decimal place. My next question is asking me for the nearest hundredth. Now the nearest 100th is the second decimal place. There's a second one in this 3 here. I can do it in one of two ways. I can either just look at these two and say, well, that's 32, and 32 is closer to 30 than it is to 40, and therefore 8.63. Or I can do it in a number line, and I've got my 8.63, and it's going to go all the way to 8.64 with everything in between. Now 8.632 is right here, and I can see it's the closest to 8.63. So 8.632 is approximately equal to 8.63. Notice how I now have two decimal places in my answer. It is because I had to round to the nearest 100th. For my second question on this slide, I have got 43.765. I still need to round to the nearest 100, or hundredth rather. So I'm going to look at my hundredth, which is the second decimal, and the one next to it says 65. 65 rounds to 70 because anything 5 or more goes to the next one up. So it's going to round to 70 and therefore 43.77. But if I wanted to do it on a number line, then I can have everything in between 43.76 up to 43.77. 43.65 is right here in the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces away from the top end, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces away from the bottom end. But because it's right in the middle, everything that's in the middle goes up. And therefore, my answer here, 43.77. Nearest 100th, and I've got 2 decimal places. Next one, nearest 1000th. Now that means my third decimal point, and or decimal place rather. So not the first, not the second, but the third, and whatever is next to it. So 43. 43 rounds to 40, and therefore I can say that it's equal to 0.194. On a number line, it will look like this. There we go. And a 0.194, which is right here, and 0.195, which is right here. So 0.1943 is here. And I can see that it is much closer to 0.194 than it is to 0.195, and therefore approximately equal to 0.194. There we go. For my second one on this slide, I've got 3.8658. I need to do it to the nearest thousandth. So not the first decimal, not the second, but the third decimal place. So I'm going to look at 58. 58 is closer to 60 than it is to 50. And therefore I can say 3.866. Let's see on a number line. I've got my bottom end here and the top end here. And there we go, 3.8658. And I can see it's much closer to 8 or 3.866. So approximately equal to 3.866. My answer in both these questions had 3 decimal places, and it is because I was rounding to the nearest thousandth. That's it for today's lesson. I hope you understood it. Give me a thumbs up if you understood it. Give me some feedback on how you find these lessons. And you can also follow me on Twitter at Easy Maths Lesson, or on Facebook, Easy Maths Lessons. Share with your friends, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.